You are tuned to Kenneth Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
What's better to have in your backyard than a big old oak tree? In the summertime, you can sit out here at the shade. The evenings are cool. I love it. And the sound of the dry flies, of the cicadas, that's really what we want to talk about. This thing is an incubation place for all of those dry flies you hear all summer and the sound that comes with them. And actually, you can see some very dramatic things that go on that are born right here in this oak tree. We've been amazed to sit at our kitchen window and look out at this oak tree, and all spring and summer we have seen birds sit out here, get up on the edge of the tree, hold on, and we've been amazed to think what it was. Now we know. And if you go out and look closely at the ground, chances are you'll find a lot of these you'll recognize as they call it exoskeleton. The outer remains, the shell, we call it, of the locust that has crawled up out of the ground. He's been in that ground either for 13 or 17 years, hanging on to the roots of this oak tree, feeding. Not really damaging the tree, they say. And he comes up out of the ground, and do you know that when they come up, those birds can hear the movement in the ground? And they are here waiting for the locusts to come up. Let us show you some of the locusts that we've collected just from this area, and then I want to show you one that climbed right up here yesterday. He climbed right here, right in front of our camera, and hung onto the tree and molted or went through the metamorphosis, and he left his shell, and then he flew away. Let's show you that. Now, we've collected a few. Actually, the male, when he mates, then he just keels over and dies. The female, and he may live 2 or 3 weeks before that, but after he mates, he dies immediately. Here are a few of the things, and you see they're not all exactly alike. Some of them have more green than others. I bet you see this one with red eyes and a red marking on it. I bet she drove him crazy, the little redhead. Actually, when you find them, you may find only bits and pieces, because the inside, once they drop down and they are dead, the ants, the other insects, love to get in there, and evidently that is a choice morsel to eat for. Actually, the underside of the limb of this huge oak tree in our backyard seems to be a favorite place for them. And it's always, the trunk is usually lined with the shells, the whole limb, and look, we have 2 duck boxes here in this tree. They love to crawl up the tree, the trunk of the tree, and go up underneath this duck box. Now, of course, it's this time, we're the last day of August, and so you see what time they've been emerging for, say, 2 or 3 weeks. But they love to go up here. I suppose they feel sheltered and come out and molt. They may not call it molting. So any sheltered place, they like to come up where they think they will be hidden from the birds and the squirrels. Well, there's the cicada. He has crawled up out of the ground and has attached himself firmly to this tree. And we're going to show you an amazing natural phenomena. It is truly amazing. You're going to see him fill with fluid, fill his back with fluid first, and he's going to split his skin. See? Watch it as it begins. Now, we spent some hour or two in the backyard to film this, but we don't have time to do that as slowly. You wouldn't want to watch as slowly as this really, as the skin splits and he emerges. So, Russ has speeded this action up some 5 times, and so you are watching it much faster than it actually happened. But watch this skin split and him pop out of the shell. It's amazing to me that the head and eyes, the eyes even have a certain protection over them that just is a shell exactly like over the back and sides. Now when this cicada emerges from his shell, he's pale and soft and bright green, and the wings are folded and compressed. They're tight against his body, and when they are exposed to the air, they begin to harden. They begin to straighten out, and they begin to harden as the body itself begins to pump the blood as such into the wing veins. And at first they're very transparent. At first they're green, and then they become very transparent. And his whole body will begin to darken and harden. And at this point, we were doing this once last year. We decided to go out and make a history of this. We took the camera out, and we found one on the tree at camera level that was easy to photograph. Now watch, he's about to pop out of that and lay way back. You know, you hold your breath because you think he may just fall out on the ground, but that's not true. He does pop out and lean way back, only clinging to the shell by the abdomen. Now, at this point, I told you some 2 years ago we were filming, and at this point, a squirrel ran up and just grabbed him from right in front of the camera, and with us there, somehow we didn't have the camera on. I would love that footage, but the squirrel ran up and grabbed this juicy morsel. Looks like he'd taste like lime, doesn't it? I think they are eaten in some countries. He's very vulnerable at this stage. Couldn't protect himself from anything. He will eventually crawl out of this shell and crawl over on the tree and sit there for another hour. Now, if you came upon one in this stage, you would not recognize really what was happening. He's leaning back completely out of the shell, except for the very tip of his abdomen. You cannot detect wings because they're just tightly curled. Now, it's a windy day, which will help him to dry out. And I think he will emerge faster and dry faster than most of the hot, still days we have in the summertime. From this point on, things go very slowly until he's able to pull himself up and you see the wings begin to straighten out. So this is a slow part of the process. He's moving his feet. You may not be able to detect that, but he's moving his feet and attempting to pull himself up. You already see the back begin to darken just a little bit, but he's pulling himself up. He will grab onto the old shell first and eventually move over to the tree. But that shell is really anchored into the bark of that tree and provides a good foothold. Now you see those wings as they unfold, and he begins to get a little tighter foothold on his old shell. Isn't it remarkable they know what to do at this point? That instinct is genetically encoded in that thing? But he knows he has to hold on. And if he loses his footing, all is lost, because he's really soft and vulnerable at this point. So he has to hold on while he dries. Those wings eventually straighten. And become very hard, as does this whole body. And the breeze today helps everything. You'll see those wings move. All right, you see, we've been here some 30 minutes from the moment he stuck his head out. He has now completely emerged from the shell. He's a beautiful green, bright green specimen. He must, surely a bird or a squirrel could see him from 100 yards away. But anyway, we're going to sit out here with the camera and with this cicada and try to see him. The wings have practically straightened out. Of course, they're not long and transparent like they would be on an adult. But it will take him a while to dry out and begin to get the dark color, pick up the color of the bark, so he won't shine like a light. Now he hangs here for some 30 minutes to 45 minutes, an hour. Blood is being pumped into all of the wing veins as they begin to harden. And then at this mature stage, they begin their incessant singing in search of a mate. Well, they have one purpose at this time in their life, and it ain't eating. Now you'll hear him as he begins this singing. And if you look closely, you'll watch the body as it vibrates.
You have been watching Time for Talk. Time for Talk is a community betterment service designed to cooperate with our local community betterment program. Each evening, Monday through Friday at this time, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. If you are aware of items of interest, please let us know for possible airing on this program. Time for Talk is brought to you through the cooperation of Kennett Cablevision Incorporated and is produced through the facilities of the Slicer Street Church. The Holy Scriptures come alive. Coming up next. Stay tuned.